Imagine 20,000 years ago, you hold a torch in the dead of the Ice Age, muscles burning, bones aching, but you are terrifyingly alive. Your existence is the exact line between life and death for your tribe. You are necessary. Now blink. 20 millennia vanish. Today you are perfectly safe. You sit in a climate-controlled room. But if you are an employee, the corporation will post your replacement in 24 hours. If you are older, a search engine just replaced your lifetime of survival wisdom. We are wrapped in warm blankets, yet we are completely stripped of the one critical metric the human mind needs to survive, the feeling of being irreplaceable. Why do I have everything yet feel so empty? Why do I feel so useless just wanting to lay here and disappear? That crushing desire to lay flat, that urge to isolate in your bedroom, it is not clinical depression. It is not a moral failure. It is a biological freeze protocol. It mirrors a terrifying laboratory experiment from the 1960s. So what exactly happens to your biology when the modern world decides it no longer needs you? In 1968, ethologist John Calhoun built a utopia. He called it Universe 25. It was a perfectly engineered enclosure for mice, unlimited food, endless water, zero predators, a flawless climate-controlled paradise. The population exploded. They multiplied relentlessly, but hitting around 2,200 individuals, the system abruptly snapped. The entire colony collapsed. But the colony did not die from starvation, and it did not die from disease. The extinction was triggered by a far more terrifying biological mechanism. Calhoun observed a bizarre demographic shift. In a confined space with infinite resources, every single social role filled up. There were no more territories to conquer, no more functions to serve. The younger generation looked around and registered a fatal data point: redundancy. Their brains ran a devastating survival calculation. They realized they were fundamentally unnecessary. So a new class of mice emerged. Calhoun named them the beautiful ones. These subjects stopped competing, they stopped meeting, they completely withdrew from the social architecture of the colony. They did only three things: they ate, they slept, and they meticulously groomed their fur. They looked physically flawless. A perfectly clean animal is simply an animal that has abandoned the friction of living. Their absolute physical perfection was the exact symptom of their evolutionary death. Now hold that image like a mirror to a modern evening. You lock the door, you put on noise-canceling headphones to block out the world. You execute a meticulous 10-step skincare routine. You slide under a heavy blanket, stare into a digital screen, and scroll for hours. You decline text messages. You avoid invitations. You systematically cut off all chaotic human connection. Society hands you a very comforting label for this behavior. We call it healing. We call it self-care. Under a strictly biological lens, the reality is sharply different. You are not healing, you are executing a dormant behavioral loop. When an organism is placed in an environment devoid of necessary struggle, its nervous system detects a profound lack of utility. The brain shuts down the neurological drive to participate. It diverts all remaining energy into isolated, superficial self-preservation. You are not a broken human being. You are just a perfectly recreated of the beautiful ones. You are surviving perfectly, but your biology is silently categorizing you as obsolete. You are running 300,000-year-old survival software on a 21st century motherboard. We carry the DNA of history's greatest survivors, yet we locked ourselves inside a zoo so perfectly safe there is absolutely nothing left to do. For hundreds of thousands of years, your social circuitry was hard-coded to a highly specific metric. Anthropologists call it Dunbar's number, 150 people. That was your entire visible world, the microtribe. Within that tight biological network, your existence was mathematically critical. You were the strongest builder, the sharpest scout, the keeper of the fire. You had a distinct, irreplaceable function. When you executed that function, your brain rewarded you. It flooded your system with serotonin. Serotonin is not simply a happiness hormone. It is the neurochemical currency of utility. It is your biology screaming that you are necessary. So what happens when an ancient nervous system, calibrated for 150 faces, is suddenly wired directly into a global network of 8 billion strangers? The hardware overloads. The internet did not just connect humanity, it forcefully ejected you from your microtribe and dropped you into an arena of 8 billion competitors. When you stare into a smartphone, your primitive radar boots up. It scans the digital environment to secure your role, but the data stream is violent. The feedback is crushing. Every single social niche is already occupied. You scan for intelligence, but a million people are louder. You scan for beauty, but algorithms feed you an endless stream of engineered perfection. The territory is completely gone. Your brain is ultimately a biological machine designed to conserve vital energy. It evaluates this infinite competition. It calculates the metabolic cost of trying to matter on a global scale. And this is exactly where your biology executes a terrifyingly logical command. It triggers learned helplessness. It is not an emotional collapse, it is a biological circuit breaker. Your central nervous system calculates that fighting an unwinnable war is a catastrophic waste of calories. It pulls the emergency brake. It begins shutting down the neurochemical signals that tell you still matter. It forces you to lie flat in your bedroom. Your profound apathy is not laziness. Your loss of ambition is not a character flaw. It is a flawless, mathematically perfect survival equation. Your brain is simply shutting down a physical machine that has zero mathematical chance of winning. If the root of your psychological paralysis is the disappearance of biological signals, the exit is not escaping into the woods. The exit is hunting those signals down and forcing them back into the architecture of your daily life. The brain that shut you down can be the same brain that brings you back. Neurologists confirm that neuroplasticity allows rapid rewiring of our survival circuitry. You do not need philosophical therapy to override a freeze state. You need brute force physical inputs. The bizarre reality is this: to repair your psychological software, you must completely stop focusing on your mind. Protocol 1. The Dunbar Shrink. Step out of the infinite digital arena. Stop competing with 8 billion phantoms on a glass screen. Draw a hard line around your world and let fewer than 20 actual breathing human beings inside it. Your biological hardware is entirely blind to digital metrics. It physically cannot synthesize serotonin from algorithmic reach or virtual approval. That is dead data. Your brain requires geometric facial recognition. It needs to measure physical proximity. It must read vocal wavelengths and optical microexpressions to trigger a neurochemical reward. By shrinking your arena, you strip away the digital noise. You force your dopamine and serotonin receptors to process tangible, real-world validation. You recalibrate your sensory radar back to its ancestral factory settings. But simply recalibrating your radar is not enough to break the paralysis. The ultimate cure requires a much more aggressive intervention. Protocol 2. The irreplaceable deficit. You must engineer a micro-reality where your absence causes an immediate physical collapse. Feed a specific stray animal at the exact same hour every single night. Hold the only physical key to a local sports field. Teach a younger family member a tangible mechanical skill. Take total ownership of a hyperlocal physical responsibility. If you vanish tomorrow, your corporation continues. The internet functions perfectly. But that specific animal starves. That specific gate remains locked. The microsystem fails. When your amygdala scans the environment and registers that your specific absence causes physical destruction, the data flips. It instantly shatters the Universe 25 protocol. It detects absolute biological necessity. It violently terminates the learned helplessness loop. Your nervous system reboots. It sends an electrical pulse of urgency through your spine, not to torture you, to wake you up, because you are suddenly, mathematically irreplaceable again. For thousands of generations, your ancestors thrived on friction and absolute necessity. Today, we engineered a utopia so violently comfortable it stole our fundamental reason to exist. The modern world wants you safe, silent, and entirely replaceable. Refuse the luxury. Do not be an obedient cog in a massive machine that does not need you. Build a smaller box, a place where the fire dies if you are not there. Before you close this tab, one question. Not what is your purpose, That question is too large and too easy to avoid. Smaller, sharper. What is the one thing, one person, one creature, one place that would actually notice if you disappeared tomorrow? Write it below. Not for me, because your nervous system needs to hear you say it out loud.